In Melee, there are some terrible matchups, even with the high tiers. These include Ice Climbers vs Pikachu, Peach vs Ice Climbers, and most importantly for this video, Jigglypuff vs Peach. Now, some people say this matchup is 10-90 in Puff's favor. Others say it's 25-75. And others say that it's 55-45 in Puff's favor. But, as we would see, despite this matchup being so awful, we would see a Peach player stand his ground against one of the best Jigglypuff players in the tournament series. Together, these two would make the best rivalry of 4Stocked Season 3. Yogi versus Chair. These two would first face each other in the season's opening tournament, 4Stocked 25, where they would play 2 sets, starting in winners finals. So, with all that said, let's get into the games. The first game would take place on Battlefield, where it would go to last stock, but Chair would miss a rest, allowing Yogi to take Game 1. Game 2 would take place on Dreamland, where we would see both of them taunting a lot, but one of Yogi's taunts would lead to one of the truest combos in all of Melee. Taunt to get bodied. And this would put Yogi on his last stock. Nonetheless, Yogi would win the game by shield pressuring Chair. For Game 3, we would see Chair go Luigi in hopes for a better matchup. But it wouldn't be enough, as Yogi would take it with a nair, winning the set 3-0. After getting sent to losers, Chair would be egged in losers finals to move into grands, to face Yogi once again. So now, let's get into the games. Game 1 would go to Battlefield, where Chair would miss a rest, allowing Yogi to get some damage and take it with a nair. Game 2 would take place on Yoshi's Story, where Chair would come in clutch with an up tilt into a rest, winning the match. Game 3 would go to Fountain of Dreams, where despite Chair having a great start, Yogi would end up taking it with a back air, and would 2-stock Chair. Game 4 would take place in Dreamland, where Chair would rage quit, causing Yogi to win the set and win his first 4-stocked. With Yogi winning both sets, he would have a strong start to this rivalry. After Chair won his first 4-stocked at 4Stocked 26, they would meet again at 4Stocked 27, where they would play 2 sets, starting in pools. So now, let's get into the games. Game 1 would take place on Battlefield, where we would have an interesting start to the game, and Chair would use the power of back air to win Game 1. Game 2 would go to Fountain of Dreams, where with some good rests, Chair would end up taking the match and winning the set 2-0 over Yogi. After pools, they would make their bracket run and face each other once again in losers finals. So again I say, let's get into the games. Game 1 would go to Battlefield, where Yogi's taunt would cause him to lose his first stock, but he would continue taunting and end up winning the game with a fair. Game 2 would go to Dreamland, where despite getting BM'd, Yogi would still win the match. Game 3 would take place on Yoshi's Story, and they would have some fun with this match, as both of them would play low tiers, Yogi with Zelda, and Chair with Kirby. And Chair would win by hitting a pretty decent combo.
Oh my god.
In Game 4, it would just be strange, because Chair would randomly play Peach, and Chair would get 3-stocked by Yogi, ending his bracket run, and sending Yogi into grands. Now, for Chair to have his win from pools be almost completely invalidated in losers finals, it seemed like that glimmer of hope was gone. After 4Stock 27, they would play the next tournament immediately after, 4Stock 28. Here, they would play 2 sets, starting in winners quarters finals. Now, with all that said, let's get into the games. Game 1 would go to Fountain of Dreams, and it would be a pretty even game, but Yogi would eventually win with a JV 2-stock. Game 2 would go to Yoshi's Story, and despite getting an early rest, Chair would end up losing Game 2, making Yogi win the set 2-0. After this, they would meet up again later in bracket, in Grand Finals. So, with all that said, let's get into the games. Game 1 would take place on FD, where Chair would start to make a comeback, but Yogi would end up taking it with a back air. Game 2 would take place on Yoshi's Story, and with an early SD in the match from Chair, and some stitches from Yogi, Yogi would take Game 2. Game 3 would take place on Yoshi's Story, and Yogi would play very well.
Yeah, I had no clue.
I completely forgot. Someone mentioned, I think it's Sevilla that mentioned like if we were gonna host a bracket today because of Easter, but totally forgot.
I forgot too.
Causing Chair to give up,
Yep.
and it would eventually end up working, causing Yogi to win the set 3-0 and win 4Stocked 28. But unfortunately, nothing lasts forever, as both of these players would graduate soon after, thus ending the rivalry with Yogi's flawless victories. Now, to conclude the video, I will summarize each tournament they played in. The first tournament they would play at would be 4Stock 25, and Yogi would win both sets, showing his early dominance in Season 3. 4Stock 27 would see Chair beat Yogi in pools, but Chair would end up getting shut down in Losers Finals. And finally, 4Stock 28 would end the rivalry, and show that in the end, Yogi would ultimately reign victorious, as he wouldn't lose a single match to Chair. By the way, don't feel bad for Chair, because at the beginning of their entire rivalry, Chair decimated Yogi, and they've beaten Yogi at their most recent set. Anyways, just thought I'd bring that up. In conclusion, we would see Yogi go against the odds of the matchup to make the best rivalry of 4Stock Season 3. Hey Yogi, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing alright, I got some questions for you about your rivalry with Chair.
All right.
So here I got 5 questions. I'm just gonna respond in whatever way you want, and if you want me to rephrase the questions to make them more clear, just let me know.
Okay.
Alright. So for the first question, some people say that experience is one of the most key qualities to success. Would you say that is true when it came to your rivalry in Season 3? Because you and Chair had a bunch of history before this, so do you think that helped a lot?
Um, yeah, I would say so. I feel like I'd have to pull up our head to head to like get all the facts straight, but I don't think I'm gonna do that. I feel like the first like 8 or
It was
so
the first
times that I played Chair, I just lost horribly. I kept trying different things. I tried Fox out. I think I might have gone Zelda for a couple of the games because that was when I was still flirting with the idea of having a Zelda for the floaties. But I mean, eventually it just kind of flipped and I won a set and then it just kind of stopped being close. It was
Yeah.
like I won my first set against her in 4Stocked, and then since then I've just kind of had the download on Chair. I think
Yeah.
all of the work that I put into the Puff matchup with people like Willow and Chair, obviously, I think we played some friendlies, really helped me out in getting to the point where I am today, where I'm like comfortable with playing Peach in a Puff, where I don't have to worry about like working on a Fox or anything like that.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, I think experience does a lot. like for how you do specifically against somebody else, not just their character, but their specific playstyle, their habits, what you can automatically read without having to figure out like midway through the set. I think at the higher
Yeah.
level, when you start, like changing how you play for every tournament, like implementing new things for every set that you play, it becomes less important. Like when you're at the level of Zane and Hungry Box, you're not just gonna get the same Hungry Box playstyle every time. Zane still has to adapt to everything mid set, but right now,
Yeah.
when that isn't as big of a deal for, people around our level, I definitely think having that head-to-head data has been a huge help for me against Chair.
All right. Second question. Do you think Chair was fully giving her all? And you may be like, well, of course she was, but I say this because uh in 4Stock 27 in losers finals, she went Kirby game 3, and then she went Peach game 4, kind of like messing around.
Yeah.
Um, and then in grands of your last match, he just gave up in the end. So what do you think about that?
Um, I think giving up like she does is the worst thing that you can do. Like she's just straight up told me like back then she was just gonna start going Luigi because she had a better chance, which I don't think is true. My Luigi matchup is nastier than my Puff matchup, but
Yeah, I mean, I would know.
yeah. No, I definitely think she just started giving up, and that's not something that I really like at all. Like, if I gave up for every set that I didn't think I could win going into it, I would have a 0% win rate. Like, you need to have
Yeah,
some level of confidence in yourself and in your play to be able to make an upset like that. Be able to beat somebody that you probably shouldn't. I think the mental game of Melee is not often talked about, not like made as important as it should be to people. And when people just give up like that, like you're really only hurting yourself. So I
yeah,
definitely
that is.
think that she started giving up in some sets, and I don't like that she did.
Yeah, me neither. Because I was watching the last set or last match actually, and you may remember this, but he tried to do rollout off stage, but the shy guy blocked her off, and it saved her. And I'm like, that has to be a sign.
It
Like if
is.
that's me, that's a sign. I'm not giving up after that.
That's another tell of hers that she's like not trying anymore is she will go for rollout. I've noticed like she's down 3 stocks to 1. She'll try going for rollout, and I've told her like that's a terrible option. Like obviously it's a terrible option. I can
Well, yeah,
power shield it and then get a grab off of that. I can wait it out and then fair. I can predict where the rollout's going and then down smash. I can predict that she's just not gonna actually go towards me with it and start pulling turnips. Like,
yeah, sure,
it's an obvious, like, I give up, you win, and I wish she would stop doing that as well.
exactly, sure. Um, but for the third question, do you think that if we put the entire rivalry of Yogi versus Terra into 4 Stock history, do you think it would be the best one? Because I'm pretty sure you and Cher have played like 19 sets in total. And Stocky and Greg have only played 11.
I definitely. This is not to be rude. I don't think it's a compelling enough story because of how lopsided our head to head has been.
Yeah,
I think Vamper versus Curry Duke has been a lot more interesting. I think seeing Vamper improve, as much as he did in such a short amount of time to start winning brackets like he was, is a lot more interesting.
yeah,
Um, I
that
don't.
is that is true. I mean, to be fair, y'all's head to head, from what I looked like, wasn't that terrible with history wise. It was your set count was 11-8,
Yeah,
which isn't terrible.
no, not at all.
Um, I mean, but I see what you mean though, because definitely in the end, Like it was never really like back and forth and back and forth. No, it was either Chair is decimating or you're decimating. It's not really there's not really a back and forth thing. So I see what you mean. Yeah, so I'm just gonna move on to the fourth one now.
Yep.
All right. So, and this kind of goes into the beginning of your rivalry. How did you overcome that rough start? Because, like losing 6 sets in a row is not the most fun thing to go through.
Mm-hmm.
So, how did you triumph over that rocky start?
Um, I think the biggest part was fixing my mentality and how I, interact with competition and melee in particular. Um, I used to really struggle with just mentally, like not being at the level where I wanted to be at, but I think realizing that, all of these issues that I was having with my poor performance and my lack of game skill or lack of game knowledge were just like all things that I could overcome, Like
Yeah.
once I started just realizing and then continuing to tell myself like it's going to take time and I have nothing but time, that made me a lot more willing to put in the effort to work on, such a slow and such an unforgivable matchup like Peach Puff,
Yeah.
where I would just hit up people for Puff games wherever I could. I would, um, specifically ask people like, "Hey, can you just like, time me out?" And I just did whatever I needed to do in order to like overcome this hurdle that I just couldn't seem to clear of like this is the one matchup I just can't beat anybody in, no matter how much better I am than them at the game. And I mean, after putting in all that effort, I would say Jigglypuff is probably my best matchup, the one I'm most knowledgeable about, and the one that I feel the most comfortable in.
Yeah, for sure. All right. We're on to the last question of the interview.
Mm-hmm.
And okay. So, how did it feel ending the rivalry with such a great tournament? Like, and let me just say, um, you know, in Force 28, you didn't lose a single match and played 2 sets. Played one in winners quarters, 2-0 chair. Played one in grand finals, 3-0. Then the last match you played of grand finals was, in my opinion, the best match you played in the rivalry.
Um,
I thought. I mean, you probably don't remember it as well as I
I
do.
don't remember most of what happened that day because this was
Yeah.
like 3 months ago, but it was a nice tournament to end on. I think I owe a lot of the melee player and the competitor that I am today to tournaments like 4Stocked and C-Stick. Like having an opportunity to play against other newer players and work on my skills and everything like that, I think was really big. And I think, these tournaments like created an opportunity for a lot of people to just get better and like be somebody, be good at the game.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
it really felt nice to end everything off with a good win before I got banned for being too good. I wish I would have waited on applying for advance so I could have gotten those last 2 wins, but you know, it's whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all right, man. I mean, hey, like, still ended off with a win, and in my opinion, it was one of the best, like, probably the best win you could have ended on, from
Yeah.
what I saw. Like, honestly, it was like you played
I don't think I dropped a
insanely
game that
well.
tournament.
Oh no, you. I mean, I think you. I don't think you did.
I might
Um, I,
have to Sevilla. That's like the
yeah,
only person like looking at this graphic that I think I could have dropped a game to. Maybe Canis was on one that night, I don't know. But
maybe I'll have to check it out. You see what it says. But
yeah, it was nice.
yeah.
Four Stocked was a nice tournament. I still enjoy like interacting with it in my own way, like trying to help commentate when I can. I like seeing new people kind of go through the same journey that I had to get to the point where I'm at. And
Well, that's the end of the interview.
mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.